the shooting, 14300 East Alameda Avenue.
The World Trade Center, tower number 1 is on fire. The whole outside of the building was just a huge explosion.
You're listening to Be the Hero podcast, brought to you by Heroes Behind the Line, where we break the stigma of silence around PTSD and mental health. Are you a first responder in need or just want to talk? Send us a message on Facebook, Heroes Behind the Line, or Be the Hero podcast, and welcome to the show.
What's going on in Heroes Land? This is Travis, your director with Heroes Behind the Line. We're coming to you. Well, we're live. They won't see this live, but we're live at the 2024 Northwest Arkansas Fire and EMS Conference at the Embassy Suites in Rogers, Arkansas. And so we came up here. We've been here for the last few days, doing what we normally do with getting everybody in the state kind of understanding what we have for mental health, wellness, resources, critical stress debriefs, everything that we do. You guys know the rundown. But we're lucky to have somebody here special with us to come on to the new podcast. And by the way, if you can't tell, we're now doing video with our podcast. So she gets to be the first one to do it with us. That's something new that we've started so that you guys can see our beautiful faces while we talk to y'all as well. But this is Miss Reagen Yeager, right? Yeah. Yes. If I say that right, I'm sorry. She is a flight paramedic. Been doing it about 6 years now, right?
In EMS.
Yeah, in EMS for about 6 years, but on a helicopter. Yeah, a little bit.
1 hour.
About an hour. Oh, yeah. Today's my first day of doing it, too. That's what I always tell people. Like, how long you been doing this? Like, I just started today. So good. We're going to figure out what happens. Good luck. But so you've been in the EMS side for about 6 years now. What kind of brought you into wanting to be an EMS? Because, this job isn't very easy. It's kind of crazy what we do, to be honest with you.
Actually, my grandmother was a flight paramedic. And so it was just something I was raised around. And I guess I was just crazy enough to go with it. Yeah. Everything else just seemed boring. So.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. Yeah. I kind of had the same thing. My grandpa was a firefighter, and I was the first cop of my family and all that. But I was like, well, firefighters are cool, but somebody's got to have a real hero to look up to, side to side, to become a police officer. No, I'm just kidding. We always joke about stuff like that, guys. We love everybody out there. We love everything that you guys do. But so you're based out of what, Blytheville?
Yes.
Yeah, big city.
Great city.
But yeah. And but you're originally from Batesville, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the home of. Yeah. Did you race any cars with?
I did not race, only my car.
Did you? Sometimes. We won't talk about that just in case they're still looking for you. But yeah, so tell us what a typical day is for you, dealing with what you deal with, on the helicopter and stuff.
Well, typical day, we do what every other EMS service does. We have our own base, and so we just go to work. We wait for the tones to drop, and we stay prepared. We train when we're down. We just kind of act like a family, and it's just like I would be at home until the tones drop.
Right.
And then we just go do our job.
Right. Now, was you in volunteer fire service or anything beforehand, or you just go straight into EMS?
I've never really been interested in fighting fire.
I understand,
Yeah.
It's hot.
I'm good.
Yeah, it's kind of hot.
That's made for other people, definitely not me.
I get you. They save a lot of cats and trees and stuff like that, too, so they do a great job, firemen. Little Rock. I'm just kidding. So what would you tell people, that you think is, the biggest issue that you face, kind of like your story, what do you got?
Yeah, so I would first consider where you started at. With me, I don't think that, my job was really the start of my mental health journey.
Right.
There's always things that happen before. So whatever you started with, that's what I like to think of, like the baseline. Mm-hmm. So like with me, I already had horrible concept of mental health.
Right.
I knew it was a thing, but it wasn't really talked about. And so when I would go through things, for example, my brother was in addiction, struggled with that for a long while. And the thing is, he wasn't the type you could just pick out of a crowd and be like, oh, yeah, that dude's definitely on something, know? And so it was that thing that was just always a secret and hidden because of the stigma around it, right? And so he actually ended up overdosing. It would be 9 years today. He was 21. I was 16. And I actually went into the room where he was at the house and saw him there and what all that. So he was there for well over 10 hours. So if I'm sure if you're watching this, you have seen something similar.
Right.
And so that alone was very traumatic.
Yeah. And you were 16.
I was 16.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to do that
right.
at 16.
And
yeah.
me and him were, we were pretty much his best friends is what
Right.
we were. But not just that, like from a very young age, I was exposed to that, to death, grandparents, just other family members, family friends. So I already had a concept of what it was that just made it very personal. And actually, like looking back, I coped with that the same way that I used to cope with things I would encounter at work. So, like, it happens, but I always kind of trend towards I'm just going to keep going. I got something to do. Like, stay busy.
Right.
Right.
Keep your mind busy.
Right.
Yeah.
If I keep my mind busy, then, I got to keep living. But that wasn't how that one worked.
Right.
Like it was just an emotional, like I was just a wreck. And that was 16. And so this carried on and on and on. And it was just, a struggle where when people would go out and have fun and stuff, I would have fun. But by the end of the night, I was always the one that was, making a scene at my house or like, just going off the walls and nobody could understand. And I didn't really understand why I was like that. Now I do.
Right.
So pretty much I followed in my brother's footsteps. I was life of the party type person. I've always been a people person. I love people. I love to have a good time.
Right. Yeah. Who doesn't, right?
Yeah. And so I quickly found myself drinking, using, but it was fun then, right?
Yeah.
It was fun. Just experimenting, I guess is what you could say.
Right.
And then, that just never really quit. And the thing about it is I did it well. Like I was very functional.
Right.
Like
it kind of became your norm,
Yeah, it was always my norm.
Right.
Like at 16, I pretty much feel like my life is separated into different like sections. And there's like the before my brother died, and then the after my brother died, and then the part where I kind of got my stuff together, and then the part where I really got my stuff together.
Right.
But all of the like important things, whatever, that was just normal to me. So I was very functional, hit it very well, was still a people person.
Right.
Yeah, I was just like my brother. You're not gonna look at me and pick me out of a crowd and be like, "Yep, that's the one."
Kind of blended in, like you did good at hiding everything.
Straight A student, athlete.
What'd you play?
I played softball.
Heck yeah,
I was
that's
catcher.
awesome. Oh, really?
Catcher.
Yeah. How's them knees feeling now? Right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I loved it.
Right.
But actually, the day that my brother died, I told my mom and dad, I said, I want to go back to school. And I did. I sat in the counselor's office, and I don't know what I did in there all day until the bus left. But I wouldn't play my softball game because that was my outlet.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
Keep busy, get my mind off of it.
Yeah.
When I was playing the game briefly, I wasn't thinking about that.
Right.
But I would say I guess it's important to bring up EMT school. So in EMT school, of course, I said my grandmother, or I think you said maybe my grandmother was a flight medic.
Mm-hmm.
Small town of Batesville, like everybody knows everybody. So I already knew the instructor. I already knew the instructors. They knew me. They knew that, this is what I was going to do. I wasn't there just to like hang out, whatever. I excelled through that class and then had no trouble getting a job. So I got my first full-time EMT job on an ALS unit at the age, like literally when I turned 19.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And I had to wait for 19 because of insurance
stuff, yeah.
And the fact that they still let me drive that thing at 19 is absolutely insane. Like, looking back, then people should have, if they weren't already scared for their life.
They should have been, right.
It should have gotten worse.
Yeah, we got great response times though with you. Yeah, that's all that matters.
I only knocked off a few mirrors.
It
was fine. But yeah, I worked as an EMT. I loved it. I loved my job. I was proud of my job.
Right.
And it was just different as an EMT. I didn't really carry things as heavy, I guess is the way to say it, as an EMT. But that shift from EMT to paramedic, I did not realize how big of a difference that truly was. Like, yes, your scope of practice expands, but emotionally, you, like, it's on you.
Yeah. Well, and people don't, some people that may not be in the EMS field don't get it. You got EMTs, you got paramedics, you got, emergency vehicle operators now that so everybody kind of has a different thing. Work together as a team.
Right.
But when you make paramedic, like, your responsibility greatly increases, right? Like, it's not just driving the truck and helping the medic anymore. It's like you're in charge.
Right.
Every drug you push or, skill you do or whatever, it's all on you. And if it's not right, it's kind of, you could be on the chopping block. And I don't think people understand how much pressure that is.
Yeah.
And now the simple fact of you're on every call dealing with every, walk of life and shape, form. And, it's the craziest thing in the world. And you're all trying to save everybody's life in the back of a box that ain't much bigger than this table we're sitting at right now. Stuff's flying all over the place. You got a new EMT driver, like you're talking about.
The
19-year-old driving like 97 miles an hour in the back of a truck. The suspension hasn't been working right in 20 years, and people don't get that.
No.
And so it's not just that you're doing it. It's like you're doing it in the back of a truck while it's moving. And then the mental stress comes in on it. It's like, God, when does it end? So, we talk about that a lot, about, people trying to find outlets of what to do to kind of help that. Did you find that there was anything that worked for you to kind of flip that, switch where it says, hey, I'm trying to get my life together, but now I really get my life together? Was there a moment in time or just something that just said, today's the day and this is what I'm going to do?
So, I think, so like I said, there's two different times.
Sure. Yeah. It's the time we thought we were doing it and then the real time. Yeah. I've been there.
So
yeah.
Like
Trust
I
me.
thought, I was drinking because I had earned it.
Right.
At work,
yeah.
like you're going out, and even going out with people I worked with. It was just, it's what you do. Like you go out, you want to go hang out on the river, blah, blah, blah. But, it just continued to get worse and worse and worse and worse. And I think emotionally, like at the point where I was waking up, drinking until I pass out, and then whenever I wake up, do the same thing again.
Mm-hmm.
And at the point where I never saw the sun come up,
I
was like, okay. And then I would try to go to work and live these like two separate lives, because I never really let it creep in. For some reason, I could always turn that off while I was at work.
Right.
But I never could turn work off
when you were at home.
When I was at home.
Right.
And so mentally, I just got so miserable. I was like, these living conditions that I'm in, like that I've created for myself mentally, they're incompatible with life. Like, if this is what life is, and I'm supposed to, be proud of myself, and I'm doing a job where I should feel rewarded and, feel good about myself. If that's what this was supposed to do, and this is where I'm at, then I don't want it, right? And so I actually got so intoxicated one night, and I was on the verge of a mental breakdown, and I just went through, right? And actually had a suicide attempt. And not many people know that, because, it's just one of the things, especially in EMS. How many calls have you you go on that person that's calling all the time.
Yeah, the
Suicidal
repeat offenders. Yeah,
ideation,
absolutely. Yeah.
And you always have that, one or two people that are like, oh, and this is horrible to say, but if people were honest, I know that they've heard it. Oh, I wish they would just do it.
Right.
And so already there's that stigma around that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But also there's the stigma around the substance abuse part.
Yep.
Just as much. And so I kept it a secret. So basically what happened was I just fell off the face of the earth, and I call it a sabbatical. I took a 6-month sabbatical and went through a program. And in that program still, it wasn't what I needed.
Right.
It did not treat mental health. Like, there's a difference between real scientific, let's treat your mental health, and approaching it from a religious perspective. And I know that people can get, argumentative and all that. But I think to encompass everybody, you're not going to get everybody in the door of recovery by saying it's a religious issue.
Right.
You know, like, that's going to push people
Well, you may
away.
not be religious,
You may not
and
be
that's okay
religious,
too. But
you
yeah,
still deserve to
absolutely,
be in recovery,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so, some of those faith-based programs, they work for people.
Yeah.
I'm not one of them.
Sure.
I love Jesus,
Yeah.
but it didn't work for me.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah.
And then the transition back into work, like I said, I just disappeared. Nobody really knew
Right.
what I did or why I was there or where I was at. And so I come back to work, and it was weird.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm like, I'm better than I was, but I'm still living this double life, and I can't have the true support that I need at work because there's a stigma and I can't let them know.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And so pretty much, I just kept doing what I was doing. The definition of insanity, right? And it just went from one thing to another. And before I knew it, it wasn't just drinking. I mean, I was doing things I said I was never going to do.
Right.
And it was such a habit. I mean, like, every single day. And still, I'm like growing in my career and getting these new opportunities, and I'm very successful, and I'm everything I'm supposed to be technically at work, right? Yeah. And then I leave there, and I didn't even know who I was really. And so that I have depression. I take antidepressants, take mood stabilizers.
Nothing wrong with that.
That was a game changer,
Yeah.
truly. But then, like I said, I thought I knew what mental health was, but truly, now looking back, and even when I had my second, like, okay, I'm going to get my stuff together, just being asked, like, how do you feel? And I couldn't even make up a word for it. And that's not an acceptable answer, I guess.
Right.
Like, and I feel like a lot of people, I don't think they realize that so emotionally immature, but we are clueless that we are even that, like,
Right.
immature, because we just don't give it the time of day
Right.
until it's like too late.
Yeah.
And which is why we have the problems we have.
Right.
in EMS,
Yeah.
or fire,
Anyway,
police,
yeah, all over
military,
all over the first responders.
just general life.
Right.
I mean, people just don't consider what it truly is.
Right.
It's not a surface problem. It's not, my life is, these things are happening to me. You can have what you need. You can have the house, you can have the car, you can have the family, you can have the job, and still hate your life.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
And that's not even going into all the crap calls.
Mm-hmm.
That's not,
That's just life.
That's just
Yeah,
life
not even
in
working. That's just
itself.
life.
That's just life.
Yeah.
And that is for me, that is depression. That is bipolar. Like, those are real things. PTSD, like, that's a real thing. And I don't think a lot of people realize that it can be treated. Like, just like you can treat somebody for hypertension,
Right.
you can treat somebody for depression, right? And so this last time, of course, I had actually started my flight career.
Mm-hmm.
So I was hired in, I think it was August, but I am at, like, I thought I was at rock bottom the first time, but rock bottom had fell in, and, like, things just got so dark, like, beyond what I could ever comprehend it could be.
Right.
Like, where I'm literally, it's taking all I can just to go to work. And then when I go home, it takes all I can just not to check out. Like, I'm sitting in my living room staring at a wall type stuff. And then, you know, we have our little stint of off days. And in those off days, you know, I would just be, a wreck.
Yeah.
We're talking substance abuse, like ridiculous. Like, I would be up for days, you know, and then crash for days, and still hiding, knowing that, you know, people say that they'll be there at work. They're like, you know, just let us know. We won't, you know, you're not going to lose your job. You're not going to be in trouble. You're not going to be looked at different. They say that, and you don't, you know, I don't know if it's a disconnect or if it's a stigma that of the way we've labeled people with mental health issues or substance abuse, or, you know, it could be the person just not wanting to ask, but I think it's more of an outward influence than that person just not wanting to change.
Yeah.
So basically, long ramble here before I answered your question, but what it took for me to finally be like, okay, I have to do something, was my life had to get so shitty. Things had to get so horribly dark and painful, and that had to become worse than me losing my job,
Right.
me being looked at different. And so, let me tell you, it got real dark.
Yeah.
Because now I'm a flight medic,
Right.
And no better than a ground medic.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's different because my peers are all people that have been in EMS for, 15, 20 years. And here I am, like little young gun, and I need help.
Good thing you weren't flying the helicopter at 19.
Oh, yeah,
just throwing that out there,
thank God. Yeah, they don't let you do that.
Right.
But, you know, and I was just tired.
Right.
So I'm like, I don't even qualify for FMLA yet.
Right. That's
you know.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing.
But there I was.
Yeah.
There I was. And honestly, I knew it was gonna, like, I had the realization of I had accepted, like, I'm gonna die.
Right.
Whether it be self-inflicted or accidental, I'm gonna die.
Right.
And the shift into that mindset, it was, like I said, horrible. I wish that I could describe it and it, you know, give it justice,
Right.
what it felt like, but I can't. But if you've been there, you know.
Yeah, people. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
If you've been there, you know, like, no hope.
Yeah.
No hope. And I don't know really. I'm truly, I don't know in that moment when I made the phone call why I made the phone call and it shifted. Thank God I did.
Right.
I couldn't tell you why, but I did. And I think it was because it just become, you know, so miserable that the effect of people thinking of me different or losing my job or whatever, like I said, had no comparison to where I was at.
Right.
Mentally.
Yeah.
And so I made the call.
Yeah.
And I don't know what all types. I've only worked at a couple different places. So some employers, I think they have like systems in place. They have, you know, peer support and stuff like that.
EAP, stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So AirEvac is actually, you know, owned by GMR.
Right.
And so GMR has, you know, their system.
Mm-hmm.
And so I call my boss, and how do you even start that conversation? Number one,
like, hey, funny story. Yeah.
Yeah. Like how, So he answers the phone And I can't even like get words out. Like I am boo-hooing, and I can't tell you what he said to me. I couldn't tell you what I said to him. I think it was along the lines of, I can't do this anymore and I need help. And it wasn't some long drawn out phone call. It wasn't a million questions. It was, okay, all right, here's this number.
Awesome.
And nothing but support. And actually, I do remember telling him, like, I understand if I don't have a job. He was like, you will have a job when you come back. He said, actually, I think more of you now.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because like it didn't take you getting in trouble or messing up at work or anything else to say something.
Right.
And so I called him and told him, and then they got me in touch with all of our, I don't know, EAP.
Yeah, Southwest EAP or something like that. Probably,
I don't know. I was talking to people from different states.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I mean, less than 24 hours, I was on my way to a detox facility.
Right.
And then I went to an actual treatment program. Like, had therapists there that specialized in trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And it was 90 days.
Right.
And during the 90 days, I went through so many different emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the one end, I don't deserve this. But then also I got to sit and think about my job. And I was like, am I going to be able to do my job when I get back?
Right.
And not go back? Like, is this even, like, possible for me? And so, I mean, I really went from one extreme to the other. Like, looked at my therapist and was like, I don't even know why I'm here. There's no hope. I'm delaying the inevitable.
Right.
I want to leave, And he was like, well, you're not leaving.
Right.
Like, please stay. And
good thing you did, right?
Yeah, good thing I did. But basically, all I did while I was there was learn that we are all human and we all feel and have emotion, whether you say you do or you don't.
Yep. If
you're the type that goes on a call and you're like, it doesn't bother me, it doesn't faze me, you're wrong. You have yourself so fooled and you're just letting it add up.
Right.
And one day it will catch up with you.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot on this podcast, and everywhere we go, we always describe it as, here's that call. We just keep putting that bad call on the shelf. We put that bad call on the shelf until finally the shelf just falls down, and some reach it sooner than others.
Yeah.
Bart Simpson, the state fraternal order police president, we talked about him in the last podcast, and Bart, he spent 30 something years as a homicide detective and a police officer, and he was fine until he retired. And then all of a sudden, 2 or 3 years after retirement, that's when his shelf fell down, And so it and that's the thing people, you got to understand is like, everybody's different. You feel things differently than I do and vice versa. And so something might affect you differently than it did me. We could be at the same spot standing side by side, but it's just the way the bodies react, and we can't say that, oh, well, everybody's body's going to react exactly this way. And so it may hit you sooner in your career. It may hit you later it may not hit you at all,
right?
But that's the thing about it. But when it does, what I do, and it's great to hear a story that, you went through that road and it was dark and it was dirty. And then all of a sudden you're like, I'm at rock bottom. And then I went 6 feet below that, know? And then all of a sudden, boom, now look at you, you're back at it, you're taking medication. And people, something that a lot of people don't get is, medication's okay to take.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing wrong with it.
Great.
It's not, you feel great.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, is it stopping you from doing your job?
Absolutely
No,
not.
you're on a helicopter every day doing this job, saving people's life, and you take medication.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with it.
And I have this crazy story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and I wonder how many people there are within our industry that are like living that type of lifestyle,
right,
and still hiding it.
Yeah.
Just because I can't lose my job.
Right.
I don't want them to know that,
right. Well, and that's why we do this, is to let people know that, like, it's there. You don't have to sit there and hide it anymore. You can come out and get the help, and you come to us, that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
We'll help you down that same road, because a lot of places don't have, as good as services set up for, their agencies, like,
right,
you guys did. And so it's fine because we're that service,
mm-hmm,
and so if you don't have that set up, or if you do have it set up and you don't like it, or, something you need help navigating that system, you call us and we'll do. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
And, not everybody knows about us because, we don't spend millions of dollars on, billboards and advertisement and stuff like that, but get the help. Reach out and ask for it because it's there.
Yeah.
And if your people don't know what to get, you come to us and we'll help you figure it out. That's the biggest thing. So, but I'm making some announcements in the background. So sorry if you guys hear that. So I think they just gave away a new car or something. It might've been you. So anyways, but yeah. So we always kind of, when we're finishing up, with the podcast and stuff, we always kind of say, if there's anything that you could go back and tell your younger 19-year-old crazy driving self, right? Mm-hmm. Is there anything that you would try to say, hey, do this way to try to help you out in the long run? Is there anything that, comes to mind or you got an idea of?
Yeah. Take the time to identify what you're feeling, even on a normal day.
Yeah.
At some point in your day, sit down and be like, okay, this is how I feel. Right?
Yeah.
And feel it.
Right.
Just sit there and feel it. It's not going to kill you to feel something.
Absolutely.
And actually, the sooner you feel it, the sooner you're going to get over it.
Right.
And so, there's no other way around it.
Mm-hmm.
You're either going to feel it, process things, and move through them, or you're just going to let them add up.
Yeah.
And eventually it's going to hit you. So I wish that, I would have been taught, maybe my 16-year-old self that went through the trauma I did then.
Right.
Sit, be still, feel things,
mm-hmm.
Process. And then it's okay to be okay. Like, you don't have to stay messed up over something because it was just so horrendous,
mm-hmm.
or because you love that person so much. You being okay does not mean that you love them any less.
Right.
In their life.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you got to take care of you,
Right.
That's the biggest thing.
Right. Yeah. But also I think that I didn't allow myself to, move forward, because I felt like, that event deserved that type of grief.
Right.
So also, the emotional part, feel your emotions, but also it's okay to be okay. It's okay to not be okay.
Right. We say that a lot too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's also okay to be okay.
It's okay to be okay. Yeah, I like it.
And when I was able to comprehend, like, that was another thing I learned, know? And so, this is the first anniversary of my brother's death, where I'm not just like a complete basket case wreck of a human.
Right.
Like, I'm okay.
Right.
I love him, still love, we'll always love him.
Yeah.
We'll always grieve him. We'll always miss him, but I'm okay.
Right. That's amazing.
And that, that doesn't take away from the relationship we had.
Right.
And so, same thing at work.
Right.
You go through something, process it. It's okay to be okay. Every time that year comes around, or that season comes around, or that certain event comes around, you don't have to put yourself back in that place you were the night after.
Right.
So.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Reagen, that's an amazing story, first and foremost. And we thank you so much for coming in here and sharing it with us, because the biggest thing of this is trying to get people to understand, like you said, it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to be okay. Right. And, reach out for the help, get help, seek counseling, whatever. There's 1,000 things that we can do to help people out. And then that's the biggest thing we want to let people know, that we're here for them. Check on your buddies, that's, hashtag buddy check. Some friends of ours in the Carolinas, and that's the thing, is make sure the people that you're around with are okay, because how people get. Sometimes you're like, man, Joe Blow, and I say Joe Blow is a made up person. Joe's
I didn't think Joe Blow was real to begin with.
So a funny story. I was at a fire department speaking. I was like, yeah, well, firefighter Joe's doing this, and he's drinking. He's, and then I was just using Joe as like a fake person.
There's a real Joe.
And there's a real Joe there. And they're like, Joe, are you okay? Like, they were literally like, hey, man, like, he was really talking about, and I'm like, so Joe is just a fake person. He doesn't exist.
Sorry, Joe.
Yeah, sorry, Joe. Cabot fired. Hi, guys. But check on, you realize Joe's not doing right. Like, Joe's normally the life of the party and having a good time, and even if he is trying to mask it, like you talked about, if he comes in not seeming normal, find out why, like what's going on, dude. And it may just be, hey, my wife's mad at me, or my kids are acting up, or my truck's broke down, but find out what it is. And if there's something to it, let somebody know.
Yeah.
Reach out to us. And if you don't feel comfortable having that conversation, holler at us, or holler at somebody that does, and don't sit there and just let somebody suffer in silence, knowing that they might be suffering. Because that simple, hey man, are you okay? Might be what finally says, you know what, somebody cares. They cared enough to ask. And because I know a lot of times I was like, God, I wish somebody would ask me how I'm feeling, and they won't do it. And if they would have just done that earlier on, how much better I might have been, but when you kind of get in that feeling where you're stuck, you got nothing. And so, and that's the thing. So sometimes just being super kind to people, you always see on Facebook, there's like that post about be super kind to everybody because you never know what they're going through. Yeah. That's a real thing.
That is.
And so, have people check on each other, do buddy checks, do peer support groups if you don't have them. We can help you set that up, whatever the case might be, whatever works, for where you're at, do it. Listen to the podcast. Some people, they may not want to go to counseling, and they might get something out of this story. They hear what you had going and say, hey, that sounds like a great idea. I need to try that, and that's, whatever works for you, make it work.
Don't try to comprehend the whole process.
Yeah. Yeah. And take it one step at a time.
One phone call.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It doesn't,
right. We don't worry about what tomorrow's going to do in the job, and worry about today, right now, in the now. I got to get past this, and then I can worry about the rest later. And that's where a lot of people, well, if I do this, then I'm going to have to go here, and then I'm not going to have. Don't worry about all that. Worry about that later. Let's worry about right now, today.
Make the call.
Yeah, make the call. And so, Heroes is always available. Guys, we'll let y'all get back to what y'all got doing. We thank Miss Reagen for coming on the show today. And, we can always be reached on any of the social media groups. Like and follow our podcast, Be the Hero. We recently changed from .com to .org. So check us out at heroesbehindtheline.org. And as we always like to say, remember to be the hero.
We would like to thank our guests for being with us today, and a special shout out to all the first responders who rise to the challenges of the job every day. You are our heroes. Please like, follow, and subscribe to our Facebook pages, Heroes Behind the Line and Be the Hero Podcast. If you have an interesting story and would like to be a guest on the show, please reach out to us on Facebook. As always, be the hero and stay safe out there. Thank you.